Shmai, how are you all? I decided now I'm going to use this stamp set here, one of the new ones, and demonstrate a card for a man. I don't know about you, but I find making cards for men really difficult. I don't know what it is. If they got a hobby, then it's not so bad. But I was so delighted to see a new stamp set in there for men. This is out of the Occasions catalogue. So here it is. Classic Garage is the suite. I'm using the Geared Up Garage stamp set and also the framelets then that match. The papers are also lovely. They're in 6x6, which makes it perfect then for card making. They've got some great ideas with them as well. And the embossing folder I'm using is a carryover item from the annual catalogue, is the Tintile Dynamic Textured Impressions embossing folder. Easy for you to say. I didn't have my false teeth in there, I don't think. Obviously as well, it's celebration time, so this is the best time to do a little bit of spending. To spend £45, that's before your shipping charges, and you get to choose a free item from the catalogue. I'm glad to say that the camera is only facing my desk, because at the moment I'm making this card and I'm wearing my unicorn pyjamas. It is getting late on a Saturday night. I'm waiting to go downstairs to watch the next episode of American Horror Story, so I thought I'd show how I did this card first. So I've done a little bit of prep. I like to be a bit more organised, otherwise the video takes a lot longer. So here we go. I'm using Daffodil Delight for the background piece here. Then what I've done with the embossing folder is I've embossed the card, and then using my Versamark embossing ink, I've just gently gone over some of the raised parts and embossed it just to give it a bit of a shine then. There it is. So I'm going to layer that on there. I've cut out the gears ready. There we go. So I've got all those ready to go as well. I cut these in preparation because using my Sizzix brush then, it was quite time consuming to get all the little pieces out. I must say the Sizzix brush is a bit of a godsend for that, otherwise you're there for ages with a pokey tool. I'm going to use the car and the oil can, and I'm using the Yora Classic. I've also got this stamp set, this stamp here, it's like a little bit of a blobby image, just to sort of dirty up the floor of the garage, I was thinking. So this is a close-up here of the stamp set. So I'm going to stamp in Memento ink because I'm going to be colouring. I'm going to stamp those ready, and I'm going to set them aside to dry a bit while I do the rest of the card. I'm going to use Stampin' Blends then to colour in. It's so great that the framelets match these images, because I think I've said before that my fussy cutting isn't the best. So I'm just going to put that to one side. The other thing I'm going to do is do the sentiment. The strip I've got was just an offcut from my scraps box. I'm trying not to get my big head on the screen there. There we go. Just going to set that aside as well. So when they've dried in a little bit, I shall then colour them in. So I'm going to use my ATG gun, and I'm going to stick down the Smoky Slate onto the Daffodil Delight. There we go. I'm using, I think the card is about 5 3/4 square. Again, is when I've bought a blank from Craft Creations. So I'm going to stick all this down then. I'm determined this year not to buy any greeting cards, so I'm trying to be really prepared by I'm going through my calendar to see which birthdays are coming up, and I'm going to make them all in advance. That is the plan. You heard it here. It was pretty good last year actually. I didn't buy very many last year. There we are. I'm using a little cog just up in the corner. I'm using the fine tip applicator glue, which, as I said in a previous video, is fantastic. It's just I find it really difficult to try and get the little pin back in the nozzle. I think is my eyesight. There we are. So I'm going to be quite liberal with this because it's going on to the embossing powder. It does need a little bit more glue to make sure it sticks, but I'm not worried about it being stuck down completely flat, because I think it gives it a bit more dimension and texture by sticking up a little bit. This is quite an easy, quick card to make actually. And again, the great thing is the framelets enable you to cut all the images out, because I know that if I had to cut that card by hand, it would have wheels like the Flintstones by the time I'd finished with it. There we go. I'm just pressing down quite hard just to get it to stick. What I'm going to do is my punch that I cut the circle out of here, I'm just going to lay that on top of a little bit of greaseproof paper. There we are, comes in handy. And I'm just going to do the inking then on this one. For this I used the darker grey. I think my Smoky Slate needs a little bit of re-inking. I'm just going to stamp it off a little bit so it's not too... I'm just going to stamp it down a few times then. And then I'm going to use a dauber and just put a little bit around the edges to grunge it all a bit. I made a card for my husband for his birthday using this set, and he liked it, so we must be on to a winner. Stampin' Up. Which cards do you find the most difficult to make? I know that in Craft Club a lot of the girls say that men's cards are difficult, and I also find it difficult for teenagers. I do find teenage cards quite difficult. They're okay when they're little children, I think, but more difficult when they turn into teenage years. Oh, nearly had it. Ah, got it. There we go. Right, so these should now be dry. So I'm going to colour the car in. As I said before, I'm not a colouring expert at all, but the good thing is with Stampin' Up, their blends don't require you to be either. I like the colour combination of yellow and grey. I was going to do black and I thought it'd be a bit too dark. And my husband's always had a bit of an urge to, I think, to have a yellow Ferrari, so that's what must have given me the inspiration. So I'm just going to do the oil can now. So the colours I'm using the dark Daffodil Delight, and this is dark Poppy Parade for the oil can. I'm just colouring over and over just to make it a little bit darker. Just get the framelets ready. As you can see, there are loads of framelets for this set. So there we go. And now I'm going to bring in my big shot, and I'm going to use the magnetic platform with it. This is when you realise how small your desk actually is. There we go. Because it does make it easier to line up the framelit perfectly with the image. I love the magnetic platform. There we are. It creaks a bit like my knees when I'm running. There we go. So that's those done. I'll just put those safely to one side. I lost one framelit for ages and I found it stuck on the bottom of my magnetic platform. So I'm just going to use some foam dots now to pick the car up. Me and my foam dots lately, I'm really being generous with them. There we go, stick that on there. And bring the card in now. And at least the grease-proof paper meant that the punch didn't stick to the card, because that wouldn't have been ideal. There we go. This was a quicker way to remove all these little sticky the little backs off the sticky pads. There's that on there. I'm just going to carefully trim this now with my scissors. Put a few pieces on there. And then I'm going to stick the little oil can on, and I think I'm going to send this card to my uncle, who I know will not be a YouTube subscriber, so I won't be spoiling the surprise, because him and my dad were always working on cards together. And in all fairness, he is a bit of a classic. So here we go. Last little bit. Oh, I need to grow my nails. There we go. So just remember, this is the perfect time to be making your purchases from Stampin' Up, because you get the free items as well. If you are looking for a Stampin' Up demo, I would be absolutely delighted to have your custom. Here is my buy-in page. I'll put all the details below as well. So there we are. There's the finished card. And once again, in the way of Heidi Hi, you have been watching Gear Up Garage and Garage Gears Thinlets, the Tintile embossing folder, and you've been